Steve Milhouse. I'm back here on the podcast, and before we even start, this is going to be a podcast regarding the Steve Austin podcast with Paul Heyman. I wasn't planning on doing a wrestling podcast. I wanted to do more MMA stuff this week and boxing stuff, but just kind of felt like we needed the ending of that podcast was really special, but we'll get to that in a moment. But I want to address something. This name of the podcast is going to be changed at the end of the week. Formerly, it was TKO Radio, and on Sunday morning, yesterday morning, I woke up, and every day when I wake up, I look at my phone, see if I got any messages, any emails, and as usual, a lot of emails, a lot of business emails, and a lot of work emails, and but there was an email. And I checked my Twitter. Now, I have one, my personal one, and then I have one for the show, TKO Radio 1. I started to look, I got a couple of tweets about, apparently there's a TKO Radio boxing podcast out in the UK. I wasn't aware of this, and I had some people out in the UK that were coming at me and were like, you said at the beginning of your first podcast that you did this and you said that you did your research, and I did do my research. No, I did my research. I typed in TKO Radio, and I put TKO Radio podcast on Google, Twitter, and Facebook. Nothing came up. Okay. That's a really good indicator of, okay, it doesn't exist. I didn't know. So I looked, and then there was almost a fan or two, I don't remember off the top of my head, and then that Twitter handle got a hold of me and blasted me on Twitter. And then said, it could be an accident. And I'm like, well, no shit. And I'm going to swear on this because I'm a little irritated. And it upset me at the time, and now I'm thinking about it, and I'm getting amped up again. And this is the one thing you're going to get from me, and this is the one thing I've been doing podcasts now. I've been doing this over 5 years. You know me, guys. I get riled up. Some cuss words will be flying, and I really don't give a shit. So then message me on SoundCloud. Apparently SoundCloud's got an inbox. I didn't know. It's how often I don't like sit and pay attention to stuff. I'm focused on getting them up, who's listening, blasting them out, and calling it a day. I'm not sitting there looking at my inbox, and unless someone acknowledges something to me, I'm not really involved in tunnel vision. Excuse me, regarding that. But, sorry, a little hot in here today. So, I looked. Okay. It now magically came up. Go backward for a second. Message me on SoundCloud. Just saying, we were here first. And I deleted these messages, and I really wish I didn't, because I wanted to read them. So I'm like, I made them, and so I looked, and all the way down at the bottom, okay. It now magically showed up. Okay. I admit my mistake. Okay. I didn't see nothing on Facebook, but I saw something on Twitter. With their Twitter handle when they tweeted me, and I'm like, okay, I made a mistake. Human. But do not blast me. Seriously, I never even heard of your podcast. They were saying they're a part of top podcasts and boxing magazines, and I respect it. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, mad props, mad respect. I respect it. I'm not going to sit there and, I've never listened to that podcast. They apparently listened. They said they found mine. They searched it. They listened. Thank you for listening, by the way. That helps me. So thank you. But I don't appreciate unprofessionalism. And I sent a message back saying, you know what? I'm like, I made a mistake. That's cool. It's part of life. No one's perfect. I've made plenty of mistakes in this business. I'm going to make more mistakes. Been doing this for over 5 years. I've had a top-rated podcast on iTunes. I've had a top-rated podcast on Stitcher. Now, I know how the territory works. I messed up. Plain and simple to you guys, I'm sorry. Because that is my fault. I didn't know. I did my research. That podcast didn't exist. The more podcasts out there, the better, but you have to distinguish yourself. I do my way differently. I've never listened to that podcast. I kind of did a yander. They've got some good guests. Check those guys out. Definitely do. But I do not appreciate getting blasted on social media like that. And be professional. Because they were like, oh, we didn't. Of course you didn't think about it. You could have dig on me on Twitter. You can do that. You could have done what you did and emailed me on SoundCloud, which would have been just fine. Or if you want to email me, stevemilhausen@yahoo.com. Email me that way. It's cool with me. I just don't really, I'm not a fan of that. I do apologize to my fans, all my Twitter followers, show Twitter followers, everyone on YouTube, SoundCloud. We got a great thing going here, guys. Got a lot of people listening. I want to thank everybody for that. Great feedback on everything. Guys, we're killing already on SoundCloud. We're killing on Stitcher. We're killing on iTunes. iTunes, it just freaking came out. We're killing already. To me, it's killing. Just had, what was it? About, I don't even know, 1,500 downloads or something for the Amir Khan podcast. For Stitcher, SoundCloud, and iTunes. I think that's pretty freaking great. And I want to thank you guys for that. Thank you so much. And there will be a new name to the podcast. And here is what it's going to be called. Fighting Combat. Yes, I looked. Not a thing. So no one has this. So if anyone wants to sit here and blast me, do it again. If you blast me on social media again, I will turn around and blast you. There's a professional way to do things in this business. I have a degree in journalism. I don't know if that person in the UK does, but probably not. But if you're going to blast me, do it professionally. SteveMilhausen@yahoo.com. I will answer every single email. But beyond that, goofy nonsense, it's now it's Fighting Combat Radio. I don't know if I'm going to go with Fighting Combat Radio or Fighting Combat. Yeah, well, whatever you guys think. So we'll go along that in future days, but more positive stuff. I'm drinking vodka, by the way. Screwdriver. I'm a little thirsty. Talking about thirsty, the Steve Austin podcast. I wasn't planning on doing one. We got some great guests coming up this week, later on in the week for the podcast, and, I was like, man, we'll wait till then, but the ending, the podcast was great. This guest was Paul Heyman on the WWE Network, and for $9.99, or if you are new, you can sign up for June for free once again. But that's a totally different podcast for a totally different time. But near the end, Heyman told Austin, can I ask you some questions? And they asked about the stunner that Cena does, and I agree with Austin's assessment. I think he's man, I keep getting short of breath today. I do apologize to you guys for this. About the stunner, let me go back to it. I do apologize for this. Well, the biggest thing, we'll start with this. The biggest thing, Heyman's like, well, what about you and Brock Lesnar? WrestleMania 32, AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. As soon as I heard, I'm like, oh, okay, let's see. I wasn't sold. And something clicked in Austin, and Austin went into, he kayfabed that promo like that. It was a money promo. Texas Death Match. Okay. We're going that route? Let's go with Texas Deathmatch. Austin didn't say yes. We'll start with that. Let's be perfectly clear. Steve Austin didn't say, I want Brock Lesnar, da-da-da. Okay. Austin said he'd beat Lesnar. He would beat his ass. All that momentum Brock Lesnar's riding, he wouldn't be able to handle that when he gets in the ring with Stone Cold Steve Austin. There was no, let's once again reiterate, Steve Austin did not say yes. Said he'd think about it, but said Lesnar's the one that should be thinking about it. With all the momentum, beating The Undertaker, destroying John Cena to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, destroying Cena and Rollins at the Royal Rumble. If it wasn't for Seth Rollins, he would have beat Roman Reigns and retained the title at WrestleMania 31 in Santa Clara in March. Beating up Seth Rollins and destroying Michael Cole and the announcers and getting suspended, and he would get his ass kicked. He was like, well, can you make it happen? Austin's like, we can discuss it. I would have 3 words for you. Texas Deathmatch. Austin, acknowledged all the great things Lesnar's done in his career, and said if you mess with Stone Cold, you're not going to like what you get back. He was like, I'm just an advocate, which was just money. Austin said he's about to get an advocate ass whooping. You could tell the look and all, and then Austin said he's ready to have a drink and think about it. Drink a cold Steve Weiser. Now, before they got to that point, they were really talking about promos and how guys need to work on their promos better. Which I think that could have been where they were going. Just because it seems like guys go in the ring and they're rehearsing. On Raw, we saw some good promos. I thought Rollins had a good promo. I thought Reigns looked pretty good. I loved the exchange with John Cena and Kevin Owens. I thought that was well done. It was just how they were going about promos. And I think, guys, I hope everyone in that locker room, from the person that sets up the ring to John Cena, I hope they were watching. Because I know they were in that, when they were talking about promos, they were talking about a certain amount of guys. But back to the ending, because that's the big thing here. And I said this when, and this has been made abundantly clear by the likes of Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer, Mike Johnson from PW Insider, and Wade Keller from PW Torch. And just talking to some of the people I know around that company and people in the business, and Vince McMahon made it an edict. We have to sell out Dallas Cowboys Stadium, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. I will be there. I'm either going as a fan or I'm going as the media. I got my hotel booked already. It cost me $189 a night, but you know what? I don't give a shit. I've never been to WrestleMania. I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. I want to be in that stadium. It's because I don't know if I'll ever get there. I'm trying to start a family. And I travel for a living. So, I don't think a UFC show is going to Dallas Cowboys Stadium anytime soon, unfortunately. And that's for another day, but McMahon's made it an edict. We got to sell this out. Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins is not selling out Dallas, Texas Stadium. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns 2 is not selling out Dallas, Texas Stadium. The Rock and Triple H, no offense to Dwayne Johnson, that is not selling out. Just that match alone is not selling out Dallas Cowboys Stadium. You know what can sell out Dallas, Texas Stadium? Brock Lesnar and the returning Stone Cold Steve Austin. Plain and simple. That on its own merit can sell out Dallas, the AT&T Stadium. I'm getting amped up here. I'm so excited. Austin hasn't been in a match since WrestleMania 19 against The Rock, and with the neck issues. But the following year, he did an angle with Brock. He gave Brock a stunner. They got a little physical. He gave Austin an F5, and Austin came back at WrestleMania 20, and Lesnar's match at Bill Goldberg gave him a stunner, and so there's always been an interaction between them. They are friends. Austin attended some of Lesnar's UFC fights. Austin's been there's a mutual friendship there between those two. That I do know just from talking to Brock, during his UFC run. But could it be a work? Absolutely. I don't think it is. I think this is, Austin said he wants to do something, wants to, plant the seeds early. He wants to get in shape, and you could tell listening to his podcast. I listened to the one, it definitely listens to it, the one with Sam Roberts from Podcast One. Listen to that. It was a really good podcast. And, Austin's like, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to get into shape. And not just for, I think it's the Broken Skull Challenge or Redneck Island or one of his great many reality shows on CMT. I definitely advocate watching his reality shows because they're really, really good. I've seen some, this is money. You go with that. Rock and Triple H. Sign me up. Here's your two matches right there. Then you can go Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose. You can go the Shield members. Then you can just kind of work your way down after that. Ronda Rousey, Stephanie McMahon. If you can go with those top four matches, I just booked WrestleMania for Vince McMahon and I did it for nothing. Don't even have to put me on the payroll, Vince. But I thought it was a great podcast. But I wasn't doing nothing until I heard that, and a Texas death match. Also don't have to do nothing. You just throw punches, do some kicks, and you throw some clotheslines, do a suplex, take some clotheslines, maybe a suplex or two, and a F5 or two, maybe a Kimura, kick, bam, stunner. Austin wins, but Lesnar doesn't care about having the job. It's not a big deal. It's Steve Austin. If Austin's going to have a final match, and I've always said this, it's going to be with one of two guys or three guys: CM Punk, Brock Lesnar, or The Rock. I think there's only three guys. Those are the matches that can make him the most money. And no offense to Cena, I think it's a money match, but a match the fans want to see. Because Austin would just tear Cena up on a promo. He would just make him his lapdog. Or, Austin and Heyman cutting promos, money. Austin Rock, money. Austin Punk, money. I wouldn't even mind seeing Austin and Kevin Owens. I think that's a little too high risk with watching Kevin Owens last night, but no, they got my juices flowing. I'm sitting on the edge of my couch, and I'm like, yeah, I want to see this. Hell freaking yeah, I want to see this. I don't care if I got to sit if I'm going as a fan and I'm sitting in the final row, in the corner, in the final seat of AT&T Stadium. I think it's April the 3rd or April. I think it's April. I forget what day. And you know what the thing they did too? They put the WrestleMania 32 thing on the screen. People think, oh, it's a work. They're not going to. There's your indication right there. They put it on the damn TV. That was planned, and it was great. That showed you can do something like that, and that was about, 2-3 minutes at the most? I'll have to rewatch it. But it was no more than 3 minutes. That's how you cut a promo. You can cut a promo and sell a match in 3 minutes. I just hope these guys and girls are paying attention. It was that simple, that effective. Does the match happen? I don't know. I never thought about him really getting back in the ring. And when I talked to Steve last year, it was kind of like, I didn't ask him because he gives the same answer. Because he gives the same answer. But after tonight, I think he gets back into the ring. I haven't talked to nobody that would know. I really don't. I'm going to do some fishing. I've already sent out some messages to do some fishing. I'll see if I can get an answer. But I will hopefully have something for you guys the next time I do a podcast, which will be in the next couple days, as we'll preview the UFC show on Saturday, and we'll have podcasts up with Gilbert Melendez and Eddie Alvarez. So that'll be nice. So that will be no, wrong podcast. We'll have podcasts up with at least Dan Henderson and maybe Tim Boach, but I'm not sure on that. But I think we're going to be talking. I'll have a podcast up with Dan Henderson this week, and we'll have a UFC Fight Night preview from the show in New Orleans on Saturday. But hopefully I will have an answer for you guys by then. But no, it was a good podcast. Definitely watch it. If you don't have the WWE Network, I'll shill. Go get it. I pay my $9.99 a month, and that right there was definitely worth my $9.99 for the month. But could it happen? AT&T Stadium, they need something to sell that stadium out. I would put that as the main event. That's my main event right there. I don't need the title match as the main event. My main event would be Brock Lesnar against Stone Cold Steve Austin. I wouldn't even touch. I would have Lesnar on TV. I would have Austin on TV in July. Just to keep, you have to tease now. Maybe in July, Austin shows up for a Raw. To do whatever. They interact in the back. Just to, you tease it some more. And then you wait maybe a couple months. Then you do it again. Then you get to the Rumble, and that's when you amp it up. You go maybe June, obviously tonight, sometime in July, or even August in the lead up to SummerSlam. Then maybe November, December. Then you kick it up in the Rumble, and you get January, February, March, and then you really get it going. Because this match doesn't need a build, but that's what Steve wants. He wants that big build, and so there's just some scenarios. I think if the match happens, which I think it's going to, they wouldn't have teased it, and Austin wouldn't have won as far as he did if it's something that's not already, I would say, 95% done. And you never say anything 100% in wrestling. That's just how it is. Things can change. But I think Vince knows that you're putting on a product in that stadium. You have to give the fans the reason to go. And The Rock and Triple H and Ronda Rousey and Stephanie McMahon will not sell out Cowboy Stadium. And the Shield members facing each other. Not going to do it. It was going in The Undertaker's final match. If you're going to do this, you got to build it and you got to freaking throw everything on there. But it has to be headlined by Steve Austin and Brock Lesnar, and I think that will headline. And I'll say it now. Steve Austin, Brock Lesnar will headline WrestleMania 32 at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. This is it for today. I am Steven Milhausen. We're going to Fighting Combat, god damn it. Later on this week, we'll have the UFC Fight Night preview. We'll definitely be talking to Dan Henderson. Maybe Tim Boach. We'll definitely be talking to Dan Henderson. We'll have a Fight Night preview. And either an interview, maybe we'll add one. I haven't decided yet with Gilbert Melendez or Eddie Alvarez as well. This is Steven Milhausen. Don't forget, follow us on Stitcher. It's still TKO Radio for now. I haven't changed it yet. But this will be the final TKO Radio episode. And then starting later on in the week, we'll go to Fighting Combat. But TKO Radio 1 on Twitter, Facebook.com/TKO Radio. Find us at TKO Radio on Stitcher. Download it there. SoundCloud. Find us on Twitter as well. On iTunes as well. Subscribe. Download. Leave your reviews. Give me your thoughts. I'm at S. Milhausen, MMAMUEHLHAUSEN. And if you want to blast me and you got something to say, if you bring it on Twitter, I'm coming right back at you. But if you want to personalize it, email me. Steve Milhausen, Yahoo.